No is not now. Cindy Crawford was turned down from over 17 agencies when she started in this industry. And she ended up being one of the most prolific supermodels of all time. So, just because you hear a
Mhm.
no does not mean to give up. It just means try something else.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a supermodel or actor? Or the path that it takes to get there? Well, today I'm sitting down with Kristy Petersen, the driving force behind SMG Model Management. Kristy has built a family legacy of mentorship and authenticity, helping countless talents find success in an ever-changing industry. Kristy's perspective on rejection as not right now rather than the definitive no is transformative. Her advice on resilience, adding value, and staying adaptable in an evolving industry proves that success is more than just good looks. It's about self-development, skill building, and believing in yourself. Get ready to be inspired by my friend and my very first agent, Kristy Petersen, as she shares how she scaled her family business and her incredible journey of mentorship in the competitive world of fashion and acting on this episode of Navigating No. Well, welcome everybody. And also, I wanted to welcome Kristy Petersen, who has been my agent for well over 20 years as an actor and a model based out of Seattle. And you are my mother agent. And thank you so much for coming on and wanting to be a part of this. So thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And yes, I am your mama.
That's so funny because a lot of people, they're like, oh, do you have an agency? And I'm like, yeah, you have an agency, but you also have a mother agency, like your original goat of agencies. And you were that for me out of Seattle.
Yes. And I remember when you very first walked in and how impressive you were and continue to be. So it's been really wonderful watching your journey and watch you grow, Blue.
Well, I thank you for that because I one of the things that I really wanted to know, and I'm sure our listeners would want to know, is that it's how do you make a career out of modeling last a long time? Right? Because I think a lot of the myths is that you're found by someone and all of a sudden you have a couple years spurt, but then there are those actors and those models who have like a lifetime career of doing it. And I think 20 plus years is a pretty long time to be acting and modeling. And so is that true, or is that kind of a myth?
I would say that I don't know that you're at your phoenix for a long period of time, but there are so many ways to continue this career. And many of it comes down to what kind of person you are. If you are somebody who is waiting for the calls, somebody who is not proactive, someone who does not continue to develop and grow, both the materials that you present to the world, which is your portfolio, but also,
Mm-hmm.
your skills. And I talk to models a lot of time about, upgrading themselves or adding value. And the models that add value over the long course tend to have the longest careers.
Mm. And I think that's true. I think that as a younger model coming in, I think that we believe that it's like, oh, when I submit myself to an agency, they're going to want me because I can bring this much value. And if you deny me because you're the deliverer of those no's sometimes, and it's like, if I don't get accepted into the agency and you don't take me on, it's all about me. It must be me. It might be I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. And it's like, when you deliver those no's, how do you reassure people that it's not them personally? Like, what is it how do you let people down lightly?
Well, we don't always let people down lightly, although that is the goal, right?
I was
Um,
I was trying to diplomatically throw that out. That's pretty cute.
yeah, no, we do try. I would say the biggest thing is that so many people come in here looking for us to validate who they are as human beings.
Mm,
And that is not the right approach. Really, it comes down to, for me, making money And when
Hmm.
somebody walks in the door, can I look at them and look at the roster of the people that I represent and say, oh, there is a spot for this person. I can see exactly how I would market this person the way they are right now. And can I actually, promote them and make money with them? Because
Hmm.
for me, it's all about that. That's what this industry is I don't make money until somebody makes money. And so they may walk in and they might be too young, where they need to develop some more. They might look very similar to somebody else that we represent. And
Hmm.
they might not have a great personality in terms of like how they present themselves. They might come in really shy and withdrawn. And I'm looking for people who come in with confidence, who, are developed and that are ready to go. And, we do help people if we believe
Hmm.
they have that long term potential. But what we do is we tell
Hmm.
them, it's not a no, it's a not right now.
Because let's hit that, because that's so important. Because people ask me all the time, like, well, how did you get into modeling? What did you do? And it's like, if I tell them that or refer them and I say you should look at SMG or you should look at one of the other agencies, if they tell you no, it's not you can't take it personally, because you might not fit their roster. You might look exactly like someone else they represent, and that's not fair to the person they all represent. But then also, if they don't think that you can make them money, there's not a place for you. So you can't take that personally. And I don't know if you hit on that when we lost you online, but
That's
it,
exactly what I just said.
it can't be that personal. No. Oh, there you
No,
go. See, oh
that's
my goodness,
exactly what I
I
just
must have
said.
learned that from you.
No,
Oh
it's
my
not
God,
a
I love
no.
it.
It's just not a right now. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell models all the
Oh,
time, don't give up.
yeah, I think that's an overarching theme of everybody's journey, whatever industry they're in. It's like, it's not a no now. It's just a no right now. And it may be like, how do you find that yes? How do you get to that yes later? And just to keep going, because you might be young, you might be not in the right place. Maybe your priorities aren't set. And it's like, how do we get people to continue on that path and not to give up? And it's like, just because you tell me no, it doesn't mean that there's not another agency that wouldn't take me, or another state's agency that wouldn't take me too.
Okay,
I
good.
love that you do say that and believe that, because that really is that overarching theme that everybody's kind of coming to terms of within the podcast. It's like, those are those messages that people are saying. It's like, no is just maybe right now. And it's like, how do you get through that? And so you have all these young kids coming in, and you have to sometimes deliver that no. And but you also have a team of people that come together, and you look at each other, and you decide like who's going to best fit within your culture, and who can make you money, and who also might have a longer career within the modeling and the acting. Correct?
Sure. I think everybody that walks in, we evaluate them as a team and we decide, we look at, as you said, our board and we say, is there a spot for them? Do we believe that we can make them money? But also, someone walks in and they're really shy and withdrawn, or they're, a little out there. I have to look at them and interpret, how are they going to come across to my clients? And if I don't think they're there yet, we will say, not right now. um, it's
Mm-hmm.
also something that I don't sometimes know means I just don't know enough about you, right?
Ooh, I
You need
love
to
that.
show me more about who you are and your desire. And the most
Mm-hmm.
beautiful people that walk through this door are not the most successful. The most successful are the ones that have this inner desire and inner belief in themselves. And they keep pushing,
Mm-hmm.
and they keep growing, and they keep adding value so that, they're more marketable. And I can't
Mm-hmm.
tell you how many models have walked in here that are just stunning, but they come in and they're like this, and, they're withdrawn a little and they don't believe in themselves. So
Yeah.
no is not now. Cindy Crawford was turned down from over 17 agencies when she started in this industry. And she ended up being one of the most prolific supermodels of all time. So, just because you hear a
Mm-hmm.
no does not mean to give up. It just means try something else.
Mm-hmm. And what I love that you had mentioned your board, and I don't know how most agencies are anymore, but like when you walk into SMG in Seattle, you walk in and you have a board of models with all of their pictures and their cards, and it's basically like baseball cards of everybody with their with all their stats and Photoshop, or not photos, and tear sheets and things. And it's one of the coolest things in every agency. I always remember you walk in, and to be on that board was very, very special. And to also walk around and look and see all the other models that you compete with, or that you represent, or that you can befriend and create a community within. Have you found that age, or that models basically connect with each other, or is it more solo? Because personally, I always felt like it was solo because of my age demographic on that. What would you say?
I mean, we call it the SMG fam, right? We're a family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but every job, they're usually just hiring one or two models. So you are competing at a level. And, not only being turned down by an agency, but this industry is filled with rejection. You are going to
Mm.
get rejected far more than you are going to be hired. And you have to be a person who can be okay with hearing that no.
Mm.
And again, it's not something to take personally. It could be that, the funniest one was I had a client who did not hire a model because they reminded her of her ex-boyfriend's new girlfriend. I mean, how do you combat that?
Well,
Right?
no, and you can't. You
No.
cannot. And a friend of mine, we just talked about this on a podcast. And a friend of mine was like, as an actor, you walk into a casting director, and you can look at that casting director, and he can take one look at you and say, "This guy reminds me of my brother, and I love my brother, so I'm hiring him." But you can walk into that same casting, and he can say, "This guy reminds me of my brother, and I hate my brother." And either way, you have no control of it. It's not up to you. You can only show up and be your best and present your best self.
Yes. And if you do that every time, then your chances are going to be higher in being, picked. But uh, you cannot take rejection personally in this industry. And, in terms of the community at large, I mean, I do think that the models sometimes are on their own, but they do tend to make friends.
Mm-hmm.
And especially as you're traveling, it is a hard life. I mean, you're traveling from market to market. If you are a model that is, at that level. We have some models who work here just locally and they have other lives
Mm-hmm.
and they do this part time. But then we have the model that takes this seriously and it's their full time career. And what that looks like is traveling to Paris, traveling to Milan, traveling to New York. And there is
To
times
Japan.
where,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to Japan, where you are by yourself, or you're,
Mm-hmm.
you're constantly put into new situations where you have to be good. And that's something, Blue, that you did exceptionally. Is you are a person who could walk into a room, make everyone feel at ease. You remember everybody's names. I mean, you're incredible with that. And I think that is one of the reasons why you have a 20-year career.
Well, I thank you for that. And I agree with, because some of my greatest memories and my skills, you talked earlier about like the models that actually have a long lasting thing are the ones that continue to learn. Right. And it's like, am I willing to get my motorcycle license in order to get a commercial with a motorcycle? Or am I able to get, to learn archery, for example, so I could get that REI commercial or something like that? And it's like that skill set of continuously learning and working on your skills that makes you more profitable and or marketable to everybody. Um, and then also the fact that it's like the connections that I've made, not only with you at my mother agency, but the other agencies that you welcomed me to and introduced me to, and that then they also took me on. But it's the other models in different markets, and the directors and the photographers and the stylists. And it's like all of these people have been a part of my life. And some of my greatest memories are traveling, over the last 20 years and working some of the most incredible shoots and having some of the greatest experiences of my life. And that is because of you. And you and everyone at SMG believed in me enough to take me on. And it was like, I told this story the other day too. Is like the first job I ever got was a casting that you sent me to for a Levi's campaign, and I nailed it. And I thought to myself, I don't ever have to work again. I'm just going to be a full-time model. And then I did not get a job for like 20 castings after that. And so it was like rejection, 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 rejection. But it was, you guys still believed in me and kept pushing me and encouraged me to grow my skill set, work on my walk, work on the way I look, work on my portfolio. And it was like, you were not only my agency, but you were my friend, and you were that family showing me how to do it and walk through that fire with me. And I am grateful for that, because you not only made a career fun, but you did make it long for me. And I am grateful for that, Kristy.
Thank you. Thank you. The history of SMG it was started by my mom, Joanne, and then my sister and I run it together. And we are a family, right? I mean, right there, family,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the people that we've hired, my staff, I have 2 staff members who've been here for 28 years. I have staff members, the rest of them 15, 10. The people stay with us, and it's been an amazing journey for me to sit in this field and have this family. But then we have the longevity of so many models who have stayed with us over the years. And so, you really develop those relationships and you really become family. And so there is that support in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
But it is really you going up for one position, one job every single time, right? So
Yes.
there's only going to be one person, and there's going to be, potentially up to 300, 400 people going for that one position. So there inevitably has to be rejection. But I do believe that the models that work on their craft, have the added value, continue to grow, are the ones that have that longevity and are the most successful, for sure, by far. And they really want it. They have this fire inside them, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Anything that
And
you're passionate, I also believe in manifestation. I'm a huge
mm-hmm.
believer in that, and going after something and believing that you can get it, and manifesting things in your life. And I've seen it happen again in this career, and for the models I work with.
Would you say, like, one thing that I am always asked on is like, oh, were you found or were you discovered? And kind of like through a warm referral. But do you find that there's some people that are still found, like, or has the modeling? Okay.
All the time. I just found an amazing guy. I hike for my free time. It's something I really enjoy doing. And I was actually climbing Mount Rainier, and I found an amazing guy on the mountain, and so then of course I went to
Abominable
my
Snowman,
staff.
was it?
No, but then I went to my staff and I was like, see, I need to be out there. But but no, we find talent all the time. That's how we grow. I mean, they have to come to us in different ways. Some of them walk in our front door. Some of them send something to us in the mail. Sometimes we're at a Sunday market walking through, and we find that face. So I think there's a lot of ways to get discovered. Instagram has been a huge tool.
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed in how we do things with social media, but I think, lots of ways to get discovered.
I will attest to that. It's like, I remember you introduced me to one of my other agencies on the East Coast. And it was like, when I went in and I met with them, one of the first things that I had to do is, how many Instagram followers do you have, was the first question. And I was like, I'd like 500. Like, I didn't have anybody, like, so, because I came from an older group of models where that wasn't the thing. And I'm assuming that it is definitely shifting that way, because there's a difference between an influencer and, let's say, a typical model. Is that correct to think?
very much, right? And so I think another way that models can add value is to tap into what they're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and start developing that and sharing it on social media channels. And we've had many models who have come down with, Vinnie Hacker started at SMG. He is a guy who now commands $1 million in things that he does because he has millions of followers through all of his
Mm-hmm.
channels. So, I do see the power of social media in adding value and getting your name out there, and brands want to connect to you because you've become your own advertising vehicle.
Absolutely. That's interesting that you say that because it's just a different platform. It's not like I don't expect SMG or any of my other agencies to just find me work. It's like it's also up to me to promote myself and my brand and my image and get, because if people don't know about me, nobody's going to hire me. So it's like it's also up to me. I have to take some of that responsibility. Once I sign with an agency, it doesn't mean now you will get me all my work. We still have to work hard on our side. Um, and it's just interesting because it you think of like what you're passionate about, and for me, mine was martial arts, mine was being a personal trainer, mine was being a keynote speaker, and now a podcaster. And it's just one more platform that I can get my presence, my image, my brand out there, even though you're not promoting me as that. And it's like, but that all comes together under like one umbrella of who I am and you representing me. And it's just, I think adding that value once again to a potential client for you, like, oh, Blue is in this commercial and he's done this tear sheet or whatever, but he's also has this following and this YouTube channel or whatever. And it just adds to that value for a potential marketer. Is that correct?
1,000%. Yes, that's exactly how it goes. And I think, the more you tap into your passions, because clients don't just want to hire a pretty face anymore. They want to be associated with that person. And it's important that you develop your skill set. You mentioned getting a motorcycle license, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
then you can do motorcycle jobs, learning yoga, learning martial arts, learning, all these different things. Anything that you do that you become passionate about and you develop is going to help you in this industry. It just is.
A skill
And
set, 100%.
yeah,
Well, I will manifest this now because I'm a martial arts instructor and I've done it for over 40 years now. I have never done a commercial or a movie where I am doing some kind of ninja kick. So I'm going to put that out there, and I'm going to remind you at SMG that I do that. I'm a ninja. So let's
okay, good.
manifest that.
Let's manifest
That's awesome.
it. Yeah.
What, how did it feel to step into your mom's shoes, you and Nicole, your sister? Like, how did that feel to jump into your mom's shoes and take over the company and be a part of, to grow your own part of your family? Because each of you brought a piece to SMG that was different. And so it's like, how did you continue that on? Was that a hard transition?
I think anybody who steps into a family industry business will tell you it's a little challenging, right? Because you have this. My mom was the matriarch, and she's very fashion oriented. She was a model. She had a very different skill set than what I have. Um, and I think, some people expected me to be like her. And I am like her
Mm-hmm.
in some ways, but I'm very different than her in other ways. And, my journey is a lot different than my mom's. I grew up a very overweight child, who didn't believe in themselves that much. And walking into this industry and being surrounded by this industry was a challenge for me. And so I do understand models, the need for diversity in the industry, the need for size diversity in the industry, the want of just celebrating all types of beauty. I see
Mm-hmm.
that, and I've experienced it personally, and I do understand rejection, because
Mm-hmm.
I've lived it, and wanting to be something, growing towards something that I wasn't. So it took me a while to learn how to come into my own and my own personal power, and where my skills what do I bring that's different? And
Yeah.
one of those things is my belief in people. I believe in people and the people I work with, the models, the talent, and I look at potential. I can really look at someone and say, okay, what's the potential, and can I give them everything they need to succeed? And that comes from relationships, the relationships that I've created throughout this industry. One of the reasons that you've been able to go to another agency is because I've created relationships with
Mm-hmm.
with those agencies. So we have different skill sets, and I think coming in under my mom, who was really about image and beauty, and finding my own way, was
Mm-hmm.
definitely a challenge.
Do you think that your sister helped you along with that, or was it an imposter syndrome? Like you're coming into the agency wherever it's all about beauty and it's about the way that you look, and then all of a sudden it's like you obviously had to find your talent, your skill set, and say what could you bring to SMG that your mom didn't or your sister didn't, and it's like that journey that you did, was that a constant imposter syndrome that you dealt with, or did it just take a little time and then, or do you still feel that way sometimes? Do people judge you and you're like, who are you? But I mean, you look great. So it's like, when you feel like that, is that something that you had an issue with?
So there's a two-part to that. My sister has been an incredible ally for me in this industry, and we had challenges as sisters, you know, and there
Mm-hmm.
was jealousies growing up and issues that we had to overcome. But my sister and I have very different skill sets, and that has been an amazing partnership because she is a CPA. She's about numbers and watching the bottom line, and her passion is going back there and looking at the business side of things, the numbers girl. She's my CFO. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel really grateful that I have her as my partner because those are things that I don't do well. My mom kind of did both things well, but we've come in a way that my sister's much stronger than my mom was in the numbers section, and I'm more of a people person than my mom was. And so we brought
Mm-hmm.
different skill sets to expand the agency. Um, and in terms of my own personal growth, I've felt like an imposter. I mean, the very first time I remember walking into having, I got thrown into a situation where I went down to Los Angeles to meet agencies, and I didn't know what to expect. And I remember walking into one agency, and this guy, Steve Deck, walked up to me. It was an agency called Prima, and I was probably 23 years old. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, you're not doing this right. You need some help. I need to put you under my wing and help you." And he really he did. He mentored me in the very beginning and
Yeah.
helped me. And I've had many mentors along the way, people that I've met that, what I've learned in this industry is people want to help you succeed. They really
Oh,
do.
I
You just
love
have
that.
to be willing to ask and be
Oh,
open to the feedback that is there and want to grow. But everybody here wants you to succeed. And so um, I had to learn. Now, I believe I'm a late bloomer. I'm somebody who, like, I think that, it took me a while. So, yes, imposter, self confidence, all of those issues plagued me for a long time. But I don't know, there's something about turning 50, stepping into myself, learning a lot about, who I was and what I wanted, and I actually hit a personal bottom. And once that happened, I realized the only place is up, and so I think I've just continued to get stronger, and I don't feel that imposter syndrome anymore. I don't. I mean, I've got to be honest. I've been doing this since 1991, so no,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't hit me anymore. And now I just want to help others grow. I want to be that
Mm.
mentor, that person that helps people get to their best.
Oh my God. I love that because you've hit on so many things right there. That was like a jam pack of gems. I want to emphasize the fact that it's like you had a confidence team behind you, whether it was your sister and your mom, and you took these skill sets, and that goes in any industry or any career. It's like, you know what you best bring to the table. And it's like, in order to scale as a business, you need other people who have skills that you don't have, and be willing to accept that and to work as a team. And then you found a mentor based out in LA. And it's like, once again, I love that. That's what my martial arts instructor was to me. That's what you were to me in the modeling agency. That's what my wife is to me with as being a parent, and my other friends. It's like, you have this confidence team of people that are willing to walk through the fire with you and are willing to give back, because you hit on it. You were like, as long as you're willing to ask for help, most people will help you. But you have to be willing to ask. You have to be that vulnerable person to say, hey, I don't know everything, and you've made it. How did you make it? Because maybe something you have that you've done, I can use, and I can put that in my tool belt so I can succeed, because I want to be successful like you. And I think that you did that naturally. And I love that. And I think that hits home with everything that we're talking about, in the sense that it's like that confidence team and overcoming that rejection by just building that and moving yourself up and scaling.
Well, I think you're doing that right now with your podcast, right? You're helping people. And I think we as human beings, we want to help people. There's something in our genetics that brings in the connection of the tribe or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
But we do want to help people succeed. And I mean, not everybody. I mean, there were people in this industry that I met who I think they lacked self-confidence, and they had somewhere inside themselves something that felt threatened. And
Mm-hmm.
so those people maybe are not as willing to come forward. But if you're lucky and you ask and you're willing and you put it out there and you manifest, what you want in life, I think you will find the right people to help you.
Especially if you show interest and
Mhm.
you show that you're grateful for that information, right? And it's like, and I talk about that all the time. And it's about going above and beyond for somebody else. Like, if you did something for me, like, send somebody a handwritten thank you card, because it does mean a lot. Sending this is a perfect example. If you book me a national SAG commercial, I want to give that back to you because you got it for me. Like, I did not go and talk to Volvo, for example. You did that initial thing. I just happened to land the gig because the casting director didn't remind me of his mean brother, right? And so it's like, to be able to give back and to show that appreciation is so important. And I don't care what industry you're in. When you get a thank you card from somebody that shows appreciation, or that you're not only respected, but it's like grateful for that really goes a long way. Do you find that happened? Because you had mentioned earlier, like the community of knowing other agencies and the relationships and the connections that you've made, because the modeling world's not that big. There's only so many agents in Seattle. There's only so many agents out of LA, and there's only so many models. And it's like, so it's a smaller world. Would you say that there's a lot of gratefulness, or do you feel like a lot of people don't really shine that? Like, they don't take advantage of that? Do you feel like most of the people don't take advantage of that?
I think writing a thank you note is brilliant, and I think it's a lost art. And it's sad because I don't think there's enough people who sit down and take the time to do that, especially in the world that we live in. Texting, sure, you can text a nice thank you, and there is gratitude. I think in this industry, unfortunately, there's a lot of false hype. There's a lot of, you know, you need to come to me because I can make you a star. I've got, I did this for this, this, and this. And really, it's an industry of relationships, as I said. So
Mm-hmm.
what makes it most successful, like me as an agent, and why? And here's another thing. SMG has been here for over 40 years, right? There's a reason
100%.
for it. There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason for that. And it's not only because, I believe in fairness, I believe in integrity, I believe in honesty, and those things help. but also it is the relationships that I build. And how do you build those relationships? By connecting with people, by asking for help, by, being vulnerable, being real, being authentic, and being grateful.
Hmm.
Being grateful is a big part of that. So it is an industry of relationships. I mean, the ones that are the most successful have the strongest relationships, and I see that in any industry, right? I mean, in
Hmm.
any industry.
But your reputation is important too, and that's your brand and your image. And like you had mentioned, you've been there for 40 years, and it's like everyone knows within Washington State, and especially in the Seattle market and the Portland market, it's like SMG is one of those prime agencies. And it's like the reason is because you are authentic and you're so trustworthy, and as from different perspectives. For example, as a model, I know you have my back. I know 100% that you have my back. And I know that you look out for the client's best interest as well. It's like if someone shows up and they, for some reason, they dyed their hair yellow and they had red hair. Well, you're going to make up for that because that falls on you. The buck stops with you, even though it was the model who decided to change their hair color and not tell anybody, right? And it's like you have a reputation within the market that it's like you are trustworthy and people can count on you. And as a model, I love that because I can trust in you and because you have my back. But then also, if I'm a client and I'm trying to hire you to be that broker for that model that I'm looking for, that actor that I'm looking for, I can trust that you're going to do the right thing when it comes down to it. And I think that is why your family, your agency has lasted so long and been so prosperous.
I think it's also, for me, it's a mentality.
Mm,
I don't come at this business with the idea of what is best for SMG. I come at it, what is best for the individual model that I represent, what is best for my client, and so a model, like helping them grow, I really look at what is in their best interest, and it may not always be the best in the short term for my interest, but what
yes.
I've
Well,
learned.
or theirs. Yeah.
Right. But what I've learned is through the longevity is if it's in their best interest, ultimately it will be in my best interest.
Mm,
And that can be like, if they want to have an agency in LA, there's a lot of agencies who will not want their model to have agencies in other markets because they want
sure.
to try to book those clients, right? But
Hmm.
I think that is short sighted. And I think it hurts the model that they represent because I- I'm not going to be that first call when a client is in Los Angeles. They're going to call
No.
the agencies in Los Angeles first, and then they'll reach out to an
Local
agency.
talent. They're looking for their
Yeah,
local talent. And only if that mix is not reaching what they're desiring, right? Then they start to look outside. And I agree with that completely. I think that, but you and I had that conversation years ago. It's like, it's just right now, if I'm only in the Washington state market and let's say the Oregon market, I have one lane of traffic that I'm going. But if I have LA, now I have two. And it's still me. I'm still going on the same trajectory. But then if I have New York and if I have Miami or if I have Dubai and I have Munich and I have Berlin and it's like South Africa, it's just more lanes that help me in the end. But at the end of the story, if I make money, you also make money because you prosper because now my portfolio is that much bigger and more marketable that you can now pitch within your general market. And so
right.
I couldn't say a negative thing about that.
No, I think that's important, but the concept behind it being that, sometimes what's best for me in the short term is not the right decision. And I think, always looking at the bigger picture is something that has kept SMG here. The other thing is, like, I mean, an example is when COVID happened. That
Mm-hmm.
was devastating for this industry. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of, focusing in on myself, we were the first agency to put out COVID protocols and to really look at, for our clients, how can we get our clients back up and running as quickly as possible? How can we protect the people on the set, the people, in the modeling industry, our talent while they go on the set?
Mm-hmm.
How can we help facilitate that? And so sometimes it's, being flexible and being adaptive
Mm-hmm.
and being proactive is another skill that I think
Mm-hmm.
helps in the long term.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. That was one of the scariest times because I remember if booking a commercial or some shoot, and it was like, when you show up, you're going to get tested, and if you're negative or if you're positive, you got to go home and you're not going to get paid. That was a very scary time from the clients. Sometimes I was like, oh, that's really scary. So, but at the same time, it was the best interest of the entire set and for your models, and that lasted for not as long as a lot of people thought, but it was just you were the forerunner of that, and it was like you did look out for everybody, and you made sure that we understood everything and what to expect and how best to protect ourselves, and to make sure that we do show up and we do, we tested negative so that we could do the shoot, and so everything, it was a win-win for everybody, and you guys were great with that, holding our hands.
Thank you. Yes, we take honor in that and pride of that. But I think in general, it's just another example of how to be successful is you have to be adaptive, you have to be flexible, and you have to, in this industry, as shared, you have to be able to take rejection. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the long big thing is this inner belief that you are meant to be a model, that this will happen for you, that you have that fire and you're willing to keep going through all of the rejections, through all of the adversity, and that you flex and you adapt and you grow and you add value. That's what really, that's where the money is.
Mm. I love, and like you had mentioned, that's in every industry. Honestly, your ability to pivot and to adapt, and to take that no and just think of it as a short term. And it's like, it's just a setback. How do I find charismatically get to a yes, or how do I eventually get to that yes, or book that gig? And if it's not you, if it's not right now, it could be someone else, or it could be another time. And I think that's imperative. You had mentioned that you had hit rock bottom on something, that whether that was the imposter. What was your hardest no as a business owner or as a parent? Like what are some of the hardest no's that you've ever experienced, whether that's in the industry or personally?
I think my biggest no's have been personal. There were a lot of moments in my life where I felt very rejected. One of those being um, I wanted to be a little sister in a fraternity, and basically it's the boys picking which girls could be their little sister. And every single girl in my pledge class was chosen except for me. And that
Oh,
was devastating, devastating, and talk about looking for validation and just being told you are not worthy, right? I mean,
yes.
that was a big one for me. And I carried that inside myself for a long time. And another my really rock bottom was uh you know getting I gained a lot of weight. I mean, I carried a lot of weight for periods of my life because I would console myself in food, and learning
Mm-hmm.
that I was a food addict, but having a moment where I couldn't physically pull myself out of Lake Washington, and had to have people pull me out and feel like a whale as I was like wafted up on this deck, and had to ask to have that happen. Really got to me to a point where I said, okay, I have to change my life. This is
Wow.
there's only one person that can change my life, and that is me. And I need to stop looking at placing blame on this and this reason, or the reason that those boys didn't accept me as a sorority, as a fraternity little sister.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of these things, all the rejections, all of the things that were against me and I used as my excuses. um,
Mm-hmm.
I had to get to a point where I just took ownership of my life. And and
I
came
love
to
that.
terms with the fact that, unfortunately I did have a food addiction, and I had to own that, and learn to give up, how to become a healthy eater, and all of these things. But
Hmm.
it really started with me wanting the best for me, and
And your
starting to take
kids
care of
and your
myself.
family.
100%.
Yeah.
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 And
It was
realizing that,
almost like an aha moment.
yeah, we only are given one life, one human in this life, and it was my job to take best care of that human, which is me, and to let go of all of the drama and the judgments and everything else, and just focus in on my health, my life, what is best for me. And then I can in turn show up as the best person, the best agent. I can walk into any agency confident in who
Yeah.
I am as a human being, and create a better relationship. It's
Oh, that's
trickled down
powerful.
in every way. So
Well, and I mean, you look so happy. You do.
thank
And it's like it to when you can take that stress off, and we don't realize, I think, like, words are very powerful. And growing up with the name Blue sucked. It was awful. And I've been called everything under the sun. And I will say that I was on a shoot once, and I all of a sudden became a dad for one of these shoots. I didn't, no one asked for my permission to be the older guy to have kids, but everyone around, all these moms were around of the kids. And the lady turned to me and she goes, "What's your last name? Crayon?" And I was like, "No." But I've never, at that time, 30 plus years, I'd never heard somebody make that connection. And it's like, I grew up with everyone making fun of me my whole time. And it's like, people didn't realize the power of those words or the way I looked or anything. And it was like, I was a late bloomer myself. And it was like, I felt all this constant stress. And as soon as I became confident in my own skin, and I realized that, I love that you said that there's only one you, Kristy. And it was like, you owe it to yourself and your family to be a better you and to show up at your best. And the best is your authentic self, and to own that. And it's like, as soon as you can do that, just everything disappears. That is a huge aha moment. And I love it, because the moment that your mind can shift in that, it's just like your perspective changes, and you realize, like, I am good enough, and I do have this, and people have to love me for who I am. And I think that's very powerful, Kristy. And I'm so glad that you did that, because you come to work and you have this great power about you that you make people feel like they belong. I know for a fact that when you walk into the agency, everyone stops and pays attention to the model there. You do make us feel like family. And when you're happy, I mean, the whole group is happy, and it is a happy family. And I love being a part of that. And I thank you. I'm so grateful that you brought me in, even as a spring chicken. And now I'm no spring chicken.
you're still got some spring in your step.
I could still do some stuff. I was working on my handstands last night, actually, with a buddy. So no, I hear you. Are there are I love that, and I love that you're so happy, and that you guys have lasted as long as you have, and that you're still there, and you've brought so much. You've changed some lives, and I want to hit back on that really quick, because people have been represented by you, and you have changed lives, whether that's financial or whether that's confidence, and whether it's just being a part of a family. But your whole group at SMG really has made a difference in this world. And I'm just so happy to be represented by you guys.
Thank you. That's what I love the most about this industry. People ask me that all the time. What do you like the most? And I am not a fashionista, right? I mean, I can appreciate it, but it's not the fashion that I love. I love having someone come in green off the street, and helping them develop, helping them grow, watching them just blossom in front of me, and give them these opportunities to do that and to help change their life. I mean, that is true. That is for me where my
Yes.
passion is in this industry, and where I find the most joy. So
And one of the interesting things is that like my martial arts instructor changed my life. And so one of the coolest experiences was when I grew my wings and I flew out of my own nest. I started my own dojo. I moved from Spokane to Seattle, and then I went to Tokyo, and it was just like but one of my most memorable things is always coming back to where I was from and meeting him and seeing him. And I don't know, because he's no longer here, but I want to ask you, how does it feel to know that you've made such a difference in so many people's lives that when they come back and they see you and they tell you about their life, their kids now, like I have kids now, and it's like, how does that make you feel as an agent and an owner of one of the coolest agencies out there?
well, sometimes it makes me feel really old. But most of the time,
I did
most of
not
the
expect you to say that, but I love it, and I'm giving you kudos for that. Thank you. That's great.
no, but
Oh my god.
really, it's so rewarding. I mean, it really is, and that's it. It's like, the relationships that we've developed, and it's really special. It really is, and I think that's in any industry. Watching people grow and watching them go through their lives, it's wonderful, and watching their
Mhm.
success because I can take a small piece of ownership in that success, right? And so
Yeah.
it's like watching them succeed feels like it's a success for me too. So I love it.
Vicariously, but you're also a mom, and it's like I'm sure that you feel the same way. It's like
Yeah.
when you see your kids act a certain way, I call them parental dividends, where they do something that they didn't think you were watching them, and they act a way that you would love them to act. And it's just like for you to see some of your models just prosper and land Vogue and land GQ and just get that $1 million commercial. It's just like I bet you that does make you feel good. It really does.
Yeah, and especially because I know for so many of them where they started, right? Because so
Oh yeah.
and knowing where they started and seeing where they are, like I have that whole story. I know the chapters, and I know the failures and the
Hmm.
successes and what they had to go through to get to where they are. And so, it gives me that much more admiration and happiness
Ooh.
for
Well, because you don't just see the milestone. You see
them.
all the work that has come along the way and the transformations, the pivoting, the adapting, and it's like the rejections. I love that, Chris. That's beautiful. I really do.
I
Um,
see the overnight success. I see the years that it took to make that overnight success. So yes.
100%. Do you feel that uh, the modeling world is changing at all? Do you think it's going a different direction, or do you feel like it's still tried and true, staying the way that it is?
I think it's always evolving.
Mm,
It evolves. What happens with the modeling industry is it tends to be uh, um, a, a petri dish, maybe, of what's happening in the world at large. So,
mhm.
you see the rise of BIPOC models was huge over the last few years because, prior to that, I mean, I would have clients calling me saying, "Hey, we want to book an exotic." And an exotic to me
Right.
was somebody who was biracial, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then a few years ago, have my top 17 out of my 20 top models be models of color was incredible. This embracing size, the diversity, that's changed. Social media is another big player in all of this and how it's changing. But I do see, that what's happening out in the world, the advertisers and the clients that I work with want to reflect that because they want to try to capitalize on that because they're trying to sell you things. So they
Sure.
do reflect what's happening. So we're always changing. Um, you
Mm.
know, I get a call now and they're looking for models, male models now who are bigger. And I mean, it's every day there's something, a new trend or a new thing that we have to follow, which is why, getting back to somebody who's starting off in the industry, sometimes their look is just not what's happening right now. But that
Absolutely.
doesn't mean in
Absolutely.
2 years that it won't be, because we're always
Hmm.
changing. And a lot of times, I mean, I think that's true about history in general. We always go back to the past. So, what is in vogue now might be in vogue, 5 years from now. Not in
Or
vogue, I mean, what is not in
you let
vogue
me
right
know when
now.
the mullets come back, and I'll start sporting the mullet again. How's that?
I think it's here,
Well,
Lou. The melon is
I think it
here.
is too. We went to a hockey game last night. I was like, everyone here has a mullet. I loved it. What if you were to meet your past self? What is the one thing, based on what we talked about today, you would love to tell your past self on how to overcome your personal rejections?
I wish I could embrace my past self. Don't you? I just wish I could just go in and give that girl a hug and tell her that everything that she did was for survival, and that, there is no shame, because I think I carried shame for so long about things. And the choices that girl, my past self, made were were decisions made to survive. And I also would tell her that, you know the inner validation is the most important, and learning that
Mm,
taking care of myself, and I touched on this, but taking care of myself, and really doing everything that I can to make sure that my best self, and not worrying so much about others' opinions, or other people liking me,
yes.
and buying into all
Hmm.
of that. It would be to just embrace me. I just keep coming back to that. Embrace
Oh,
that.
embrace me. That's great. I I I want to teach our daughter that too, and it's just like embrace who you are, because there's only one Hayden Stiley. And it is so amazing. Some of the things you hit on were just are industry standard, but at the same time, it's just like it isn't just focused on this industry, and it's your wisdom and your authenticity with opening up with all of the people that you've brought into your life has just been so great. And I am absolutely honored for you to represent me and to continue representing me, whether I have a mullet or not. But
Bring
how
back the
can people
mullet.
find? I know I'm gonna rock it. I'll bring it right with my Star Wars look. How can people find out more about SMG and kind of your passions? What's the best platform for people to introduce themselves to you and to connect with you?
There's two great ways. One is come to www.smgmodels.com and go to our website. There's a lot of information on there about how to become a model, and how to get discovered. And then the next thing is to go to our Instagram. It's just SMG Models, and we do all kinds of fun things there. We're teaching people, how to become better models. It's not just a platform for us to showcase our models; it's a platform for us to be a good community member and to help others learn about this industry and how to become their best possible model they could be.
Oh, I love that. And I wouldn't want to tell somebody not to reach out, because it's like you have different categories of models. You have your commercial actor, you have your lifestyle actor, you have your modeling, you have your sport athlete, and it's like it doesn't matter. And it's like I think you're welcoming to everybody who does submit, and whether you reject or not reject or give them a no diplomatically or not, it's like having that self confidence. You were always warm and very amiable, and I've heard that through any of the other models that you have represented. And I just thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for being there for me, and making a career so fun and introducing me to so many new experiences, and for bringing me into your family, because I do feel like I'm a part of your family, Kristy. So thank you.
You are, and thank you for doing this and for inviting me on, but also more importantly for all that you're doing to help others, Blue. It's amazing. And I'm just so proud of you and all that you're doing with your keynote speaking. You have this passion in building others, and it's wonderful. And I'm really proud of you. And
Well,
that's a
I
mama
love
proud.
you. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. The mama proud. That is awesome. I love you, and I love the agency. I love everybody at SMG. I'm going to shout out to Macklin and Andrew and Joy. You guys have just been a great family to me, and thank you. And I suggest anybody who is interested, especially in the Seattle market, to look you up, because you do help. And if it is a no, then keep going and keep trying, because you're a helping
Not
hand
now.
that wants people to succeed. Not now is right. Well, I
Yeah.
love you, and thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today. And I hope the best for you, girl. And I cannot wait to see you again in person.
Thank you, Blue.
Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Navigating No. I hope you found today's conversation just as inspiring and insightful as I did. We'd love your help to make it even better. So, if you enjoyed this episode, we would love to hear your feedback. And if you think someone else could benefit from hearing it, please share it and help us spread optimism and positivity. We release a new interview every Monday, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks for listening.